I want to offer a moment of appreciation to Denise, who came to me and others about, hey, we need a mind-body dictionary where we take a condition and then we find the emotional and mental and possibly even the spiritual aspects of that physical and emotional situation, such as someone has sugar problems, weight loss issues, heart conditions, whatever. And knowing that there is a relationship between the body and the mind. And of course there is. Something wiggles your toes, you've got a connection between your head and your toes. And you also have a connection between your heart and all the things that happen to you. And I appreciate Denise for saying, hey, let's do this. And of course, and I've been writing ever since.
Working so you can make it happen.
Yeah, that's how things happen, is just put it out there. And so, and it's been a really a great blessing to a lot of people's lives, including Denise. Just tell us real quick. You know, you do homeschooling, you see people privately. How's it blessed your life? Do you want to just tell us real quick how it's made a difference in your own personal
Real quick, huh? Yeah, no, I use it in my practice all the time. And I use it at home with my kids often, and it's given an awful lot of insight. In fact, I had a really phenomenal session recently with a guy who was he's an owner of many businesses. He has many retail stores, and he was having a lot of frustration, and we looked up what was presenting itself in his body in the MindBody Dictionary, and we were able to go back through the times in his life where he was having a similar type of stress, including when he was a young kid, upset with his sister and that sort of thing. And it was so powerful and so transformative. He just was all smiles because everything fit perfectly. He understood, you know, because of the Mind-Body Dictionary and the understanding that it brought, the awareness it brought into it, and like, oh, that's what I've been doing all these years, and the frustration I had from, you know, when I was 3 years old, all this kind of stuff. He just was very, it was very transformational, very transformational. And the same thing happens with my kids at home when we're doing homeschool. You know, kids are often, they have physical pain or something that will pop up that doesn't quite make sense. And, you know, kids go home from school with stomach aches or this kind of thing, and they get home and then all of a sudden they're fine. Or in the case of my daughter, you know, her hand started hurting her. And when we were working on something with homeschool, and then of course, if you stop working to homeschool, the pain goes away. And so to be able to look that up and get the understanding, like, okay, this is a mental, you know, there's a mental emotional connection to this that's very strong towards what we're doing. And then we read it, and in this particular circumstance, she read it and she just looked at me kind of in awestruck and like, oh my goodness, that fits perfectly with what I'm feeling right now. And we talked about it, and her pain went away, and we were able to accomplish what we needed to accomplish in a much more positive and enjoyable way. It was fantastic. So countless stories, but overall, it's been a huge blessing. Wonderful.
So why do you think it works? Why do you think it helps?
I think because of the way that, and, you know, the power of the mind in general, you know, they always talk about mind over matter, and, you know, these cute little phrases that we use that have a huge impact on our life, but a lot of times it's general, you know. And one thing about the Mind-Body Dictionary is so specific. It's just so specific, and it's specific in a way to your personal life. So if you're having arm issues or leg issues or eye issues, you look that up, you're the one having that problem. It's in your body and you're experiencing it. So when you look it up, it's so specific to that issue, but also there for you, that it gives a type of awareness that I haven't seen anywhere else, actually. So.
And of course, specific in the condition and suggestion and affirmation and others too, sometimes foods and
Mhm.
other things. Um, now, can't someone just get this from the therapist? I mean, isn't it possible to just go, the therapist tells them what to do? I mean, why would they need a mind body dictionary? Can't they just go do that in therapy?
I think, like with my practice, there's times that I don't look it up and we come to a similar conclusion, and I'll look it up later and discover,
Uh-huh.
oh, that's the same conclusion. So it's not that they can't find it through the therapist, but there's something quite powerful about it being written and about it, especially written before someone sitting there looking you in the eye talking to you. A lot of times I think we feel alone in our pain or in our struggle, and having this presented in this way demonstrates how this is not just you. There's a lot of people who experience this type of emotional, mental, physical pain, and everyone has eyes, everyone has hands, everyone has a head and legs, and at some point they've been injured, at some point they've experienced what it's like to have it hurt for some reason or another. And if that's the case, then I don't know, I feel like it's relieving, to know that. I also think it's helpful because you can refer back again and again, and you get the full spectrum. So we have the negative side of it, the thing that get the negative emotions and mental connections that get you there, and then the positive side of it, that help you get a perspective where you need to be, and then of course the affirmations that help you take the stepping stone pathway to arrive at that where you need to be placed. So it gives you that full perspective. When you're sitting with a therapist, unless you're recording it or taking notes, thorough notes, it's easy to forget. It just really is. And so it's nice to be able to refer back to it. And that's one reason why I think it's great for therapists and practitioners in general, because they can send them home and say, look this up, and I want you to read the affirmations every day until you see me again.
So, in reality, it's not replacing a therapist; it's adding to the therapy.
Oh, no, 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 not replacing it all. It enhances the healing process. And we recommend on the app going to practitioners and suggesting practitioners, because, it's absolutely needed, and it helps enhance the process for sure.
Well, in my own case, with clients I meet, even though I spent quite a bit of time doing a lot of writing and researching things like that, I forget. In the moment, sometimes I'll forget an item and I'll look it up and I'll go, oh yeah, that's right. That's what I wrote there. And
Yeah.
I even have a whole nother list that lists it by organ. Um, and it's always nice to have additional tools, obviously, to help out and coming from that point of view. But recently, when I had there was an accident, and I looked up what happened on that part of the body, on my hand, it was like, gee, I wrote this, and here I am. I'm discovering something about myself, and I even wrote about it. And so I look at the Mind Body Dictionary a way to help stay awake and stay aware and stay conscious. I see it as an opportunity to to do that, because in life with stress, the mind gets really tired after a while, and the body gets tired, and it goes to the least stressful place that we can find, and that may be for some watching TV, and other people that may be eating food excessively. Other people maybe the opposite. Actually, I talked to a kid the other day. He wasn't eating hardly anything at all.
Mm.
Wanted to grow. He said he was short, but he wasn't ever eating. And that was his coping skill, was to not eat, not sleep, and just play video games. And it definitely was having a toll on him. And so, but in the whatever it is that we do to deal with life actually puts us asleep over time, makes
Mhm.
us to go asleep on our mind and awareness. And I think Mind Body Dictionary and how we use it helps us to stay conscious and stay aware. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Our we're with our body. every day, all day, right? Hopefully. and and when it's harder to ignore physical pain or discomfort or something like that. The physical body, pain is a way of reminding us, hey, you're not paying attention to something that's really important. Come on, wake up, right? Now, I think it's great to catch things early, anything, all things, right, early. And so if you pay attention to your body in an appropriate, balanced sort of way, but paying attention, and if your shoulders are a little tight or whatever else, and you look it up, that's a lot better than getting an actual injury. But, boy, our body will wake us up and help us. And then you look it up on the MindBody Dictionary and you wake up emotionally and mentally as well.
Hmm.
It's a great way to keep that pattern rolling, and of course then there's just insights in general all the time. It's just great to have.
Um, and so I think that it is one of the most common flaws to the transformational world, whether that be businessmen going to a sales seminar and getting all motivated and directed, to students, to mothers, to people that go to churches, and is that they get a piece of information and they use it for a moment and then they go back to their regular life. They
Hmm.
actually don't have the full transformation. I've been doing this for 30 years, and people are very surprised at how deep and powerful it can be to have a body and a mind connection such that you actually have a daily change rather than a once a year change or
Hmm.
once a week change. Um, and so, learning how to really embrace a positive change in one's life and then actually go through the process of doing it is very, very powerful. I take people who want to lose weight, for example. A lot of times they end up using products only, or they'll do it a little bit and then secretly do something else on the side, and then they don't have success long term because it to really truly transform your life, it is a daily thing, changing one's life consistently, slowly, and powerfully. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to lose weight," or "I want to make $1 million," whatever it is for you. But the real thing that's happening is transforming your character
Hmm.
and having a character change that really provides a joy and a something that is more valuable than cash, money, the looks that you have, your health. I mean, they say if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. I say if you don't have your inner character of joy, you don't have anything. That's becoming your true character, and staying awake enables you to have what you want. And it brings you closer to that more spontaneously. So now, saying all that, Denise, what do how would you interpret that for others, in a practical way?
Well, it's phenomenal what you're saying. Get that inner character and doing it on a daily, creating it or building it on a daily basis. I mean, you can, if you have, whether it's a daily meditation or a daily wake up call, or, wake up meaning become aware, become present, right? The in the moment character transformations are by far the most powerful because they're the ones that are the most real. So when you're in the moment of an extremely stressful situation with a child at home, or maybe at work with a coworker or the boss or something like that, it's in the moment that you, instead of just going down your story and your pathway of rage or frustration or whatever it might be, if you're like, oh yeah, I do this and I'm working on changing this, this is something I'm ready to do different. And or maybe it's with the eating habits, things like that. and you say, okay, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something different in this moment, right here, right now. That's a huge deposit into the character transformation place. And I mean, I've experienced that myself. And there's been, I have a lot of tools to help create change in my life, and I use them regularly. And I have been actually quite blown away when I'm in the middle of, either a woe is me party or for myself, and or or some down place, and in the moment I choose something different than what my entire body is compelling me to do, to be, whether it's sad or angry or whatever it is, to use my conscious awareness and say, actually, I'm going to do something different. I am working so hard on this. And in this moment, I am going to think different thoughts. And some of that motivation has come from the MindBody Dictionary, and some of that motivation is come from just that huge desire for character, or growth, change, or even the desire for less pain, you know, depending on where I'm at in the moment. But yeah, there one recommendation I have for people for that in the moment type changes when it comes to food, especially eating at night or something like that. Okay, you're going for your treat, or you're going for a snack. Take a moment before you do it and just even meditate on, just imagine you're doing this in the moment. Imagine going to get a drink of water first. And while you're drinking your water, you're taking a few breaths in between or something like that. And just give yourself a minute so that you can relax, calm yourself down, and then see if you're even still hungry. See if you're even still care about the treat, or maybe you won't eat it as fast, or just any sort of small change. But before going to it, they commit and say, I'm going to get a drink of water first, or I'm going to sit down and breathe, take a few breaths first, and just making a decision so that they pull themselves out of their story to have that in the moment daily transformation. Anyway, that's just some thoughts.
I think that's great. I think that's absolutely good. What prevents people from doing that, though?
Their absolute drive or need to run away from whatever it is that they're running from. Um, uh, Awareness, running from that consciousness, refusing to stay conscious, refusing to be conscious.
Why would they want to do that? I mean, why would they just want to go for their goals and just go ahead and do it?
That's the part where I think that character piece is so important that you were saying, because if you don't want to, usually it's because of some huge fear or some past trauma or some belief that you carry with you that is keeping you in the dark, or keeping you stuck, or insisting that this is the only way, I've just got to eat this, or I've just got to do this, or I've got to, you know what I mean, or I've got to run, do, right, or I've got to watch TV because I don't want to know. I just want to deal, right? When that's just a belief, it's a false belief. It doesn't work. The problem doesn't go away. It's chronically there. And you have to, I mean, there's a lot of people who run and just go and do random things, clean or whatever it is, work, shuffle papers all day long. So they don't have to just sit with themselves. Whatever they're afraid of, whatever their pain is, they don't want to know. But when you choose, you could call it the higher road and just say, you know what, I'm going to. It's not worth it anymore. I'm not interested in doing this nonsense anymore.
True. True.
And that sounds harder. I think honestly, the hardest part about it is just making that choice. It sounds harder, or maybe it feels harder in the moment than it actually is. Then you do it, and all of a sudden you get this huge relief, and you're like, that was it. That's what I've been, working so hard to avoid.
Well, what you're saying is when the pain gets too great.
Yes.
And but if it was only the pain get too great, then everybody would have changed a long time ago. I've worked with alcoholics, and not a lot of them, but a few of them, because I see all types of individuals, from business people to moms to kids, and they talk about rock bottom for them. And sometimes they don't reach rock bottom. They just go all the way out and destroy themselves. So it's not just the pain, but the pain helps them get there to say, oh, I've had enough. So it's a combination of pain, like I've had enough pain, and then the combination of desire that that I can do this.
Mm.
There's a little spark that happens. I see this in the people that really change their lives, transform them. Um, they they yes, they don't want the pain, but they really like the spark.
Mm.
They like the spark of discovery. Um, and there's something that they value in the process of change. It's like some the regular clients that I have, and they they really love that change of heart that they get that happens when that spark, ignites inside of them, and they have another day of hope, another day of joy, another day of a little bit of change. Even if things aren't 100% changed in their life, at least they have another step forward and they enjoy that. I believe that if it was only based on pain, it wouldn't work. Also, if it was only based on reward, it doesn't work. Because if it was only based on reward, then obviously those cream-filled cookies or whatever it is should have had people lose weight, but it doesn't. It makes it worse. So it has to be a combination of embracing, the pain and embracing that path, and it builds the character. Character building is that. Otherwise, the little 5-year-old gets whatever they want if they clean their room. Okay, if you clean your room, you get your little treat, and and that would make life really easy. Okay, if I do A, I always get B. Life is not necessarily that way because the 5-year-old sometimes it wants to resist, and they get more power out of the resistance than they do out of the treat.
Mhm.
Because they notice that if they resist their mom and dad's command, that the mom and dad will actually pay more attention to them than if they, okay, I cleaned my room, I got a Tootsie Roll, or whatever the candy may be at the time, and then go out and play. But while the other one, mom and dad, get upset and they, focused on them, and there's all this energy towards them. So there is so much that goes on behind the mind body uh, story that is more than just, is it the pain or is it just the reward? It's all these combinations of, you know, um, embracing my pain, embracing the pathway, embracing that spark, and then looking at all those little subtle things that, like the resistance and the power that I get out of it, and on and on. I'm just rambling a little bit because these thoughts are pouring into my mind. But Denise, what do you think about a lot of that I was speaking of?
It I mean, I went a little abstract on it. I was thinking about the contrast. The word that came to my mind real strong when you were talking was contrast. And how having the contrast of the pain versus the joy is really, I don't know, it provides room for gratitude, it provides room for care, compassion. Um, because all you know is just the joy and happy and good, yay, yay, everything's great, then you don't, it's harder to have compassion for someone who doesn't have the same experience or a pain, But when you have had the sorrow, the grief, or pain, or whatever it might be, and then you see the joy and understand it, right? Or at least have hope for it, maybe. Maybe you just get a perspective where, oh, this is possible, this is something that I could achieve. Then that's much bigger. And when you talk about the 5-year-old, even just bringing it up with from to them in that way, Okay, let's feel the sadness, let's feel the anger, whatever it is. Okay, now what if we tried something different? And what if it turned out that you guys had this relationship or maybe you had this experience, and bringing that joy side of it. It's just like, experiencing the night and experiencing the day and appreciating the aspects of both. Ron, isn't the pain and the pleasure sensors in the brain, aren't they right next to each other in the brain?
Mhm. Mhm.
Is that part of that whole dynamic, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, but you have a lot of pain centers in the brain. It depends upon what it is. But if you go to the orbital frontal cortex in the front of your brain, yes, you have. That's one of the pain pleasure centers right in the front. And a lot of meditators go right in that space and focus on that and do deep meditation to deal with that pain and pleasure center,
Huh.
right? And you need some dopamine in there, of course, serotonin and norepinephrine. And neurotransmitter wise, dopamine actually isn't a true neurotransmitter, it's a neuromodulator, actually.
Hmm.
And so that motivation from dopamine, well, I get out and I have my drive to actually get something done. And then when I complete that, then the dopamine spreads. And, in any addiction that you have, dopamine is involved. And so the dopamine goes in and has a neuromodulation in norepinephrine and serotonin, which there has to be a particular enzyme in your brain. And if it doesn't, if it's not functional or is a stress, because I deal with the energy levels of stress levels, that's what I do a lot of, is de-stressing energy on our thoughts, on the energy of the hormones, the energy of the organs, and et cetera, et cetera. It's very detailed, very advanced, and a lot of fun to learn if people want to learn. And
Mhm.
fun to teach it. But anyway, so in that frontal lobe, the dopamine has to change into a norepinephrine. And so norepinephrine keeps you awake and aware, okay, um, in the brain, along with another neurotransmitter. And then serotonin comes along and of course gives you a satisfaction. And so you have true goal completion gives you awareness and like, wow, I did it. And hey, this is great. And then also, satisfaction and pleasure that when those three hormones are working together, it works very well. And then there's another one, acetylcholine, that's involved in that too, as far as awareness goes. But
Hmm.
the reason why you gave that is pain and pleasure. Well, if you don't complete it, then in that same area, then the dopamine, it doesn't get satisfied, and so, and sometimes that's because of biology, true, but it can actually the body can change biology. The body is very powerful at changing the biology, and but anyway, when it doesn't, then the dopamine gets charged up and the body in addictive situations thinks there's not enough dopamine usually, and so it sends out more dopamine from your brainstem, your primal center. And so then it then there's too much, so parts of your brain in the nucleus accumbens and things like that will desensitize to it. They'll, and just like insulin in your body does it with dopamine in your brain, pulls back. So you actually need more motivation to keep going. So in a food situation with weight loss, they have to have more effort to be motivated to do the goal. And reality is, no, no, no. Learn how to do anything simple and get excited about the simple
Mhm.
and completing simple things. Get the body changed. And we
Mhm.
ought to do a podcast of doing that so you can change your biochemistry of your brain simply by changing your behavior. Then you could do the hard stuff a lot easier. And that's something we'll talk about, actually. I think that would be a great podcast to do even more in depth, actually.
That would be phenomenal. That sounds awesome. And that makes a lot of sense. Now, quick question on that dopamine from the primal brain. Does that, from the brainstem, does that, so what you were saying was that the dopamine, there's a perception that there's not enough. And so then there's more produced in the brainstem. Now, does that create some sort of excess or some sort of chaos or some sort of pain of some kind to have that excess or that, because there's this concept that there's not enough, but then it produces more, and then it's like it's too much because
Yeah.
it's absorbed.
Well, um, it's not. I could use a lot of phrases. It's not how much you eat; it's how much you digest that counts. It's not how much you drink; it's how much you absorb from the water. It's not how much you learn in school; it's how much you apply. Applied knowledge is the powerful thing, not knowledge.
Yeah.
Applied knowledge is what
Yeah.
counts. So, the dopamine, just getting more motivated, getting pumped up. Yeah, I mean that's nice, and for a sports event or sales event or even getting up in the morning, getting pumped up, and yeah, you have a lot of dopamine. But if it's being resisted, if the dopamine is being resisted, that means you have to have more. And then if you have too much, the body will resist more because it's just excess amount.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
and actually, serotonin is an interesting one on that. If you have excess serotonin, that could lead to psychosis or panic attacks or a lot of things. So that's hard to get too much serotonin. Of course, there's the drug way or there's um, some other things. But it's just a thought that here's a pleasing neurotransmitter, and they use um, um, the serotonin. They have a lot of drugs that has to do reuptake inhibitor because the serotonin goes out, it's not absorbed, so then it reabsorbs back into the system and is confused. So they inhibit it to be reabsorbed.
Hmm.
So they're playing with serotonin medically and pharmaceutically all the time. And so it's not necessarily the amount, it's more how we use it, it's more how we apply it. That applies both our mind, how we think, our heart, how we feel, our body, how we sense, and the nutritional aspect of that, and of course, the spiritual aspect. The spiritually speaking, it's really powerful to understand that concept because everybody's out to gain something, to buy something, to get more stuff. What is the amount of stuff? As I was on to someone yesterday, they says, "Well, we're moving, and half the stuff we don't even need." And how much money was spent on that and effort when we can go back and minimize, do a minimalization, I guess they're calling it, um, which just means buy what you need, what is appropriate. Even your breath, you don't hyperventilate, nor do you hold your breath for a long time. It's appropriate breathing. It's appropriate purchasing and more balance. So
Mhm.
I don't know if that answers your question a lot, but I got to talk.
It's great. It's totally great. No,
uh,
the absorption, in life, I really appreciated how you put that into perspective, whether it's absorbing our food, digesting our food, absorbing the water, how much we apply of what we learn, and then putting that into that biochemical context. It makes a lot more sense. Um, and that's really what it comes down to with the mind body dictionary too is you might have it in your pocket, but applying it, um, becoming aware, waking up to what's going on in your life and in your body, and making those character transformational changes so that you can build yourself over time, and not just have a big hype in a moment and then never follow through.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so the Mind Body Dictionary gives perspective, and that's one of the values to it. And so um, I think this has been a great conversation, and another conversation talking about the consistency part. And I think it'd be great. and let's do another one quick and soon. And but right now, I think this has been a great conversation, Denise. Thank you for bringing up some the practical side. I get off on the theory so much. It's good to have you bring in that practical side to make sure it can be applied, right?
Yeah, love the application. Well, I sure appreciate it, Ron. That was very enjoyable. We'll chat again soon.
Okay. Hey, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Uh huh. Bye.